And we're recording.
It says recording.
Yep, so we're recording. So, hey, good morning, Stahlka family. This week's installment of Stahlka Way, we wanted to do something a little bit different. You went from getting the emails to seeing a couple employee interviews, and we are very fortunate this morning to have Dan Gagliardo, one of our preferred customers and friends of the agency. We recently enjoyed lunch from Devolio's on Monday, which was awesome. We were very fortunate that Dan's willing to join us and kind of talk about the Stahlka Way and just Stahlka agency and his perception of it. So good morning, Dan. Maybe you could start off by, for those that don't know you, I know a lot of us do, but just kind of introducing, yourself, the businesses that you own, and that type of thing.
Thanks, Sean, for asking us to do it. Our privilege. And thank you for giving us the orders. I appreciate that. My name is Dan Gagliardo. I'm the owner of 5 West Enterprises, which is a cable installation company that you've had since 2014. And Devolio, shortly after, I think it's probably 2015.
Yep.
And it's a restaurant, and we used to have 6 locations. And we've been part of your family for quite some time now. Good bunch of people, so.
And do you remember how we met?
Oh yes, we were in trouble. 5 West was in trouble. Our premium had come from another our insurance agent that was really high, and they wanted us to go to Lavallo. And you and I were introduced by Art, who worked for Lavallo, Art Ponzi, and we were kind of in a desperate situation, if I remember correctly, because the rate was going to be astronomical. And you came in. We were introduced at Devolio, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you took the ball and you started giving us quotes. It ended up working out well for us that year.
It did. Yeah. It started kind of the relationship with you and MSA, who has written it for that whole time. But Dan, so we had talked about, Stahlka introducing the Stahlka Way, which is a new corporate culture. But maybe you could give before we get into that, just kind of take a minute to describe, how you see the Devolio 5 West corporate culture and what you guys are trying to do and what you would like, that to be.
This was the reason why I wanted to do this with you, because in my world, in my family, we're a family business. We have approximately 100 employees if you look at both companies. It's very diverse. We do cable installation, we do restaurants. So it's one spectrum to the other. But for us, we're trying to watch our pennies. We're looking for agencies and vendors to work with that have that same philosophy. They're conscientious and understand that every dollar that we spend becomes critically important. So for us, finding a vendor is paramount for us to be successful in what we do. And as I said to you the first day that we met, what I don't want to happen is I don't want to mistrust you. I want you to give me the good with the bad. I want you to tell me if there's something that we're doing wrong or if we need to correct an issue so it'll benefit us in the long run. And I in our prior discussion, I want to make sure I emphasize that, because one of the things about your organization that's just been excellent is the fact that there's never any space between what we are trying to achieve and what you provide. And this becomes critically important, because at no time since 2014 have I ever felt like I can't tell you that something is wrong or if something is right, and I get satisfaction at the end of it. So I think that's critically important. And it's something you should be proud of your staff about, because they're all wonderful and they've all done a really good job with us, and they've been very accommodating.
Well, thank you. And I think that, as we, even what you say, and I kind of look at the card and that there's a lot of these beliefs and philosophies in our culture that we've already had established. We're just kind of formalizing them. I know that, you and I have talked a lot in the past about the relationship that we have, and when we talk about it being respect, that in a sense it turns into a partnership. It almost feels like a family, right? Where I think most people see us in something like this, or they see us in public and we're good natured, but there's times when we butt heads, and we have to, right? That's natural. Where there a true partnership, like you said, is the good times and the bad times. And there's times when I have to deliver stuff to you that isn't great, and there's times where you need to come back and deliver stuff to me that isn't great. But the one thing I appreciate with our relationship is that we have the trust in each other to be able to do that, because I think it's super important.
Well, and again, I say all those compliments and I mean them.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, we have had a lot of battles. It's not just one. We've had a lot of them. So
Right.
I want to make sure that your staff understands that it's not all great. It's not all perfect. And I actually appreciate that. And I'm going to tell you why, because nothing is perfect. Nothing is all set in stone. It's not static. It's always moving. It's always changing. And I think one of the things that makes it worthwhile is because I trust the fact that if I have to state my position, you allow me to go beyond you to your insurance company. I mean, like, we've been in that kind of situation where we've had to bring everybody involved, where there's been problems with things, and we've come to a resolution. That is the most important thing. We got there. We differed, but it wasn't necessarily that our first instinct was to leave you. Our first instinct was, let's get this thing settled. And because we got satisfaction out of it, we didn't think about leaving you.
Right.
That's the point. And before you, I never felt that way with regard to an insurance company, because if I didn't pay attention to my premium, and let's assume it stayed the same with my prior person for 5 years,
Right.
that didn't matter, because if you could have got it cheaper, that would have been where you would have, the honesty would have come out. Hey, geez, Dan, we can move over here. We can get it cheaper. So you should be looking for that. And that is exactly what your organization has done. That is what I appreciate. And that is the stuff that's worked out. And your staff, the Jennies, the Frasers, all those people that go out of their way to do it, they at least make you feel like they're working on it and they're doing it. So that's a testament. That's a testament to it. So
Yeah, and if one of the things, see the very first thing on our Stahlka way card is do what's best for the customer. Then it goes in, treat people with dignity, lead by example, team, make a difference. I mean, we you can really see where areas of your Frasers and your Jennies and Brad and his team on the employee benefits side and the personalized team. For those people watching that don't know it, Dan's ingrained in all aspects of the agencies, all divisions. He has his property and casualty with us. He has his employee benefits. He has his personal lines. He has life insurances with us. So we're super appreciative of that, and I think that so Dan gets to see us operate at all levels and divisions of the organization. So one of the things that I asked Dan about, or wanted to ask Dan, is we pointed out a lot of things we've done well as an organization. One of the things that we strive to get to is feedback. Is there any areas of improvement or things that you feel that we could do better on a daily basis?
well, I'll get to that in 1 second. As far I read your card here, and what I will tell you about your organization is that at each one of these listed, I can say that I've experienced them all.
That's great.
Every one of them. Now, on the flip side, there have been times where we have had disagreements.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest part, I think, was having all the people that you deal with at different parts, understanding what our philosophy has been.
Right.
So my suggestion to you is that everybody that we deal with at your organization, we should be putting a room together with all of them, be introduced to all of them,
That's
so
great.
they understand this and they understand who we are, because putting a face to a name will help it out. Number one. Number two, there'll be no distance between our philosophy of family and your philosophy of family and what they need. So that is what I would say is the thing that would be most helpful and our relationship, because I know who you are.
Right.
I know who Jenny is. I know who Fraser is. I've seen some of your people. I know who Brad is, which has been great. But, you're much more diverse than that. I asked Barbara this morning to tell me how many people we're dealing with at Stahlka. And I told her to stop after 4. Okay? But there were more, because she's dealing with a couple of people doing different lines and all this stuff. Well, I get it. You're a big organization and you have to watch all that. But to understand and know who they are, I would appreciate that, because they do a good job, but I'd like to know who they are, because if I have a problem, I'd like to know who Bill is, or I'd like to know who I would just like to know that. And I think that would be very helpful.
No, that's great. And I think sometimes, we take for granted, you see Brad and I a lot. You talk to Jenny and Fraser a lot, but then you have, Brad's team on the employee benefit side, which Bill falls under, and Sarah and Marissa and Barb, all these different people. And you got, everybody who handles your personal insurance. We have Cody, who's the claims guy that I know we've talked about. So that's great feedback. And I think, that would be once a year, maybe at that renewal time, maybe that's the time the whole team's in the room, right? And you get a representative from every team in there, and we talk about your personal lines at the same time. And instead of me coming out at 5 West and Devolio's renewal and Brad coming out for health insurance, maybe we look to unify that into one meeting, and have some lunch while we're doing it, and that way you get to see the faces of everybody, like you said, and they get to understand your philosophy as an organization as well. I think that's a great point.
And one last point I'll make about that too, Sean, is that I think that what's interesting and what will make this better for all parties is the fact that we need to be able to explain ourselves and understand even your culture too, like us understanding how it works with you,
Right.
Because we have to appreciate what you do at your job to make it easier for you as well.
Sure.
And that definition is not always clear. So if we need to get Jenny some information, or Bill, or whomever it is, I think that we should be doing a quarterly meeting about all lines, just a quarterly meeting where we sit down and we just say, okay, how's it going? What's going on? Here's what we can do. Because like last year, as you know, when we went through our policy, we had quite a few things that we needed to take off our policy.
Yep.
Well, that wouldn't happen on a quarterly basis. If we did that, it would be great.
And I think sometimes, that's great feedback, because, we do have some expectations of those type of meetings. But I think when we have a relationship sometimes where we talk frequently, I think that, when we talk frequently, sometimes we mistake that for, I do personally mistake that for, we talk once a week, right? Where we still need that formality of the quarterly thing to take a look at losses, take a look at trends, take a look at all those different things. So I think that's an eye opener for me to, when I sit there and preach, we need to see people quarterly. I think it's, designed to make sure we're staying in touch with our customers, but even the ones we're in touch with frequently, we need to have that formality and not assume that everybody's all on the same page all the time. So that's excellent feedback too.
And remember now, especially now during this virus, everything's going to be so fluid that now I'm going to rely on you. I'm going to rely on my accountant. I'm going to rely on my attorney. I'm going to be relying on all of you more now, because policy premiums are going to go down because of it. Things are going to be going up. So if we don't build this bridge today, Sean, it's going to be more difficult. It's going to be more difficult. And you're already 90% there. And that's why I mentioned that. And it's the only reason I say that is because I know what's going to happen to me.
Right.
I know that I'm going to have to look at you and say, how many times have I called you already during this time? So that's what we have to be prepared for.
No, and that's perfect. And I think that's exactly, the type of relationship that we have is that I'm so glad that you brought that up, that I appreciate that more than you know, because I'd like to take that 90% of the bridge being built and finish that, right? And make sure that, you know, we all know there's always going to be ups and downs, but you know, we have that trust, that transparency, that communication, and you know that, you know, how we're working on your end, we know how you're working on your end. You know, that's what's beneficial in these relationships, and we strive to be in that partner role that you talk about, like your CPA, your attorney, because if we're not in that grouping of people, then we're doing something wrong on our end.
And the last point I will make to you is this, and it's not a bad thing; it's actually a good thing. One of the reasons why I'm drawn to your organization is your last point on your card.
Yeah.
It's about associating myself with people who have that atmosphere as we do, because I refuse to deal with anybody that doesn't. If I can't look at them and feel like I feel about my own organization, I've just made up my mind, especially after all this, that I won't deal with anybody that doesn't have that culture. So
Amen.
we have always felt that way. And I think that that's your number one asset. Number one.
Well, thank you. And we, you know, as you know, Brad, Mark, this is a family business, and have built it on that foundation. And I know that even being named partner, that, you know, I consider them family. I consider the agency family. So that's tremendous.
But you exhume that. That's what I'm saying. Like
Right.
you do that. You exhume that. So that is something that you do very well. As Brad, as they do it very well. Even the people like the Frasers, the Jennys, and all, they do the exact same thing. So your process is good, and that, to me, you can overlook a lot of things, Sean, because of that.
Right. Sure.
And you know the bottom line, and that's the bottom line. The bottom line is you can make a mistake, as we could, but ultimately, when you're making your decision whether you want to stay with somebody or not, those are the things that will keep somebody with you.
Awesome. That's great. Great feedback. Well, Danny, I appreciate your time so much, and you know, I appreciate you and your business, and anything that we can do as an organization, I can do personally during this COVID-19 nonsense. You know, make sure, and I know you will reach out, but you know that we're here for you, and but we appreciate you taking the time today to do this, and you know,
Well,
thanks again.
thank you, my friend, and tell everybody I said hello.
Oh, I sure will. We'll see it.